In the coming days, we got to know a lot of the light fairies as they were a delightful people. I shared with them what we believed fairies would look like, and they laughed. Although one of the elders did say that there was once a fairy clan that were tiny in stature, and maybe that was where the size of the fairies we'd heard about had come from. I didn't know, but what I did know was that we were very ignorant about any of the mythical creatures we were meeting. In the weeks that followed, we became more proficient at using magic and could store a little more mana within our bodies thanks to Dana's training. The level of magic spells that we could cast was getting better, but after seeing how powerful Dana and that sorcerer was, I realized that we were no match for them on a good day. I didn't share my thoughts, as I figured it would be interpreted as being defeatist, but at the same time, I didn't want to bet our lives on our magic abilities. With that in mind, I asked to be trained with a sword and bow. At least those things were tangible as well as understandable. Once a person was skilled with a sword, it was the kind of thing that stayed with you, like riding a bike. It was something you simply didn't forget. We were happy for the next month as nothing untoward was happening and life with the light fairies was fun. All good things come to an end eventually, though, and life for us was about to change dramatically. The day started like any other, with a lot of activity from fairies going about their daily routine. Dark elves were visiting, which was normal, as they often came to barter with us for goods and materials. I often wondered why there were guard towers scattered around the town, as they never seemed to be needed. However, on this day, I was going to find out firsthand why the towers were there. Kate and I were on the way with food for the night's meal when what I learned later was an alarm sounding. It was a god-awful sound, but everyone knew what it was, except us. We were in a one-horse buggy, and suddenly above the alarm, we could hear the fairies shouting griffin. I knew what a griffin was, having read about them in fantasy novels, so I knew if they truly existed, they would be very dangerous. What I didn't know was that one of them was diving down on our buggy from behind, and the first we knew about it was when it had slashed the bridle gear that was attached to the horse and lifted us from the ground, buggy and all, into the air. If we'd reacted quickly enough, we might have been able to jump out, but we didn't. I think we were too shocked initially from the way it happened. As we peered out to look back at our captor, it screeched at us and carried on climbing. I'd imagined a griffin to be the size of a horse, but I was wrong. It was twice as big, and although beautiful, it looked dangerous and quite menacing. As we rose, I spotted a few arrows being fired from the ground, but the powerful beat of the griffin's wings were making them miss their mark. We sat back to talk about what we should do, and firing a spell at him from this height was totally out of the question. We didn't know any useful magic spells that would help in this situation, such as a flying or travel spell. The only spells Dana had been teaching us were attack spells and defense magic. "Do you think we were its target?" asked Kate. "I don't know, but nothing surprises me here anymore. I find it hard to believe that it would go to so much trouble to take away an entire buggy when there was probably targets it could have gone for in the open and without protection," I replied. Then we noticed that we were approaching a mountain, and it was one we could see every morning from where we lived. This particular mountain had to be at least 50 miles away, and we'd reached it in less than 4 minutes. "Wow, this thing can move," I noted. Seconds later, we started to descend and came down heavily at the foot of the mountain. Waiting for us was what we soon learned to be another female sorcerer, who was holding 2 bound griffin chicks at knife point. Once she saw us, she cut their bonds, and they were free to run to their mother, who was now walking away from the buggy. The griffin gawked loudly at the sorcerer, but parted with its chicks in tow. I couldn't blame the griffin, as I'd probably have done the same thing if I'd been her. "Let me guess, another sorcerer," I said, as we climbed out of the buggy. "You guessed correctly. And what are your names?" replied the sorcerer. "I'm Victoria, and this is Kate," I replied, after seeing no reason to withhold that information.